Did you know that the average price of a new car in the US has jumped by $6,000 since 2018? And that's not the only shocker. Used car prices have skyrocketed by 33% over the last few years. But what's driving this dramatic rise? It's not just inflation. Tariffs on everything from steel to imported vehicles are reshaping the automotive industry. And you might be feeling the effects without even realizing it. In 2025, the US auto industry is still reeling from the impact of tariffs that were first imposed back in 2018. These protectionist policies were meant to bring manufacturing jobs back to the US and reduce reliance on foreign countries, but the consequences have been far-reaching. Vehicle prices are at an all-time high, with some models topping $70,000, and the ripple effects are felt across the entire economy. Steel prices have surged by 25%, and automakers are being forced to absorb the higher costs, passing them on to you, the consumer. For everyday buyers, this means that a new car is becoming increasingly out of reach, and the dream of owning an affordable vehicle is slipping away. Job losses in the auto sector are also a harsh reality, with 700,000 jobs at risk by 2025. As manufacturers are squeezed between rising costs and shrinking margins. Stay tuned as we break down how these tariff policies are reshaping the future of the auto industry and how it affects you directly, from your car payments to job security. The imposition of tariffs on automotive goods began in earnest in 2018 when President Donald Trump introduced a series of protectionist policies under the guise of national security. The primary target was foreign-made steel and aluminum, both critical to the manufacturing of vehicles. Trump argued that foreign reliance posed risks to national security and that tariffs would incentivize U.S. companies to source materials locally. Tariffs on steel were initially set at 25%, while aluminum tariffs were set at 10%. Later, additional tariffs were imposed on Chinese-made automotive parts under Section 301 of the Trade Act, designed to curb the trade imbalance between the two nations. These tariffs were meant to reduce America's dependence on China for vital components and to force China into better trade deals. As of 2025, some of these tariffs remain in place under the Biden administration, continuing to raise costs for manufacturers. One of the key statistics to note is that the average price of a new car has risen by nearly $6,875 due to these tariffs. For consumers, this means higher monthly payments, around $120 more per month on average for a new car. The ripple effects of these tariff policies have been particularly pronounced in the global supply chain. The U.S. automotive industry, which has long depended on foreign imports for parts, has had to adapt rapidly. Many automakers have reported significant delays and disruptions in their supply lines due to the rising costs of key materials such as steel and aluminum. As of 2024, Ford and General Motors (GM) both reported an increase in production costs of up to 10% due to tariff hikes. A significant portion of this increase stems from steel, which saw prices rise by 25% after the tariffs were imposed. For manufacturers, the strategy of passing these costs on to the consumer has created a high price barrier for new vehicles, with some models reaching record-breaking price tags of over $70,000. For the average American, these changes are not just abstract figures, they are impacting daily life. With the increased cost of manufacturing, car prices have reached new heights. Families who previously would have bought a new car are now looking at used car markets, leading to price increases for second-hand vehicles as well. In fact, used car prices have increased by 32% to 36% since 2021. The combined effect of these changes is that the dream of purchasing a new car is now more out of reach for many middle-class families, with younger buyers in particular struggling to afford a new car. These changes are also prompting consumers to delay their purchases, contributing to longer vehicle ownership times. In fact, the average age of a car on U.S. roads is now over 12 years old. One of the most immediate and visible impacts of U.S. tariffs on the automotive industry is job losses. As production costs rise, many automakers have had to make difficult decisions, including laying off workers. In 2024, GM announced that it would cut about 1,200 jobs due to rising steel and aluminum prices caused by tariffs. While these layoffs are spread across various departments, the hardest hit are workers in production plants and Tier 1 suppliers who rely on cheaper materials imported from overseas. The problem extends beyond just the automakers themselves. Tier 1 suppliers, those that provide essential parts and materials like batteries, transmission systems, and electronic components, are also facing layoffs. According to research by the Center for Automotive Research, the auto tariffs could cost the U.S. up to 700,000 jobs by 2025. This includes jobs not only in vehicle production, but also in logistics, retail, and parts manufacturing. While the intention behind tariffs was to protect American workers and industries, the unintended consequence has been widespread job displacement. Many workers, particularly those in manufacturing towns, are now facing long-term unemployment or being forced to accept lower-paying jobs in other sectors. For workers in the automotive sector, especially those in manufacturing, the threat of job loss is becoming a harsh reality. For instance, workers who were previously making a middle-class income in assembly plants are now being pushed into lower-wage sectors or have to relocate to other regions in search of employment. Additionally, communities that have long relied on automotive plants for economic stability are seeing increased unemployment rates, driving up social welfare costs and putting pressure on local economies. The primary aim of the tariffs was to encourage U.S. manufacturers to bring jobs and production back to American soil. In some cases, this has been achieved, with several major automakers committing to increase domestic production. In 2024, Ford and GM both announced plans to build new plants and expand existing ones in the U.S., a move that the government applauded as a success of the tariff strategy. However, this shift has come at a high cost. The increased prices for critical materials mean that manufacturers are forced to absorb a portion of these costs, which directly impacts the price of vehicles. The final sticker price of a car has become a key battleground in the auto industry. In fact, a survey by Santander US revealed that over 52% of middle-income households delayed purchasing a vehicle in the past year because of costs. The rise of electric vehicles, EVs, has been the most significant shift in the automotive industry in recent years. EV manufacturers, including Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid Motors, are all competing to dominate the market. However, tariffs on Chinese-made components, including batteries and electric motors, are complicating their efforts. In 2024, the U.S. imposed tariffs of up to 100% on electric vehicle parts sourced from China. This has driven up the cost of EVs, which are already priced higher than their gasoline counterparts. While these vehicles are more environmentally friendly, the high cost makes them out of reach for many American consumers, especially when coupled with the unpredictability of government subsidies and incentives. On the global stage, the U.S. automotive sector is falling behind as countries like China and Germany double down on electric mobility. As of 2024, China is leading the global electric vehicle market with a 65% share, while the U.S. holds only 7%. If tariffs continue to stifle the domestic EV market, the U.S. risks losing its competitive edge in the global automotive race. As we look toward the future, it's clear that the impact of tariffs on the U.S. auto industry is multifaceted. While they have had some success in bringing jobs back to the U.S., the economic consequences have been far-reaching. Higher vehicle prices, job displacement, and a slower transition to electric vehicles are just a few of the impacts felt by consumers and workers alike. For everyday buyers, this means that affording a new car, whether it's gasoline-powered or electric, may be even more difficult in the coming years. The increased cost of materials and tariff-induced inflation is pushing the price of vehicles to new heights, making it harder for families to afford new cars and delaying purchases in the process. For automakers, the path forward will require a careful balance of innovation and global competitiveness in a changing economic landscape. As we move forward, the key question remains: will U.S. tariffs continue to protect domestic manufacturing and workers, or will they end up pushing consumers toward cheaper imports and stifling the growth of the industry? If you're in the market for a car, or planning to switch to electric, make sure to factor in the higher prices and uncertainty in the future of automotive tariffs.
Which, while not currently in power, holds significant sway in Canadian politics due to its position in Parliament. The NDP is proposing a 100% tariff on electric vehicles (EVs) from Tesla and other foreign manufacturers. This would effectively double the price of Tesla vehicles in Canada, creating a significant competitive disadvantage for the American automaker. Why target Tesla? Why not other US companies like Ford, GM, or Stellantis, which also produce electric vehicles in North America? The answer lies in the political calculus behind the NDP's move. The NDP argues that Canada has an opportunity to become the dominant hub for electric vehicle production, tapping into its rich mineral resources, such as lithium, cobalt, and nickel, which are critical for EV batteries. In fact, Canada is the fifth largest producer of nickel globally and has the potential to meet the growing demand for battery-grade nickel in North America. In addition, the party wants to foster local jobs in the burgeoning clean energy sector. The clean tech industry in Canada is already generating around $73 billion CAD in annual revenue and employs over 314,000 people. The NDP's vision includes creating more high-paying jobs in this sector by boosting local manufacturing and production of batteries and EVs. For consumers, the impact is more immediate and potentially negative. While the NDP's proposed tariffs would help support local manufacturing, the immediate effect will be higher prices for foreign-made EVs like Tesla. If you've been thinking about upgrading to an electric vehicle, the higher prices could delay or prevent that decision. Chapter 3: The political and economic calculations behind the 100% tariff. The proposal by the NDP isn't just about protecting the domestic market, it's part of a broader economic nationalist strategy. Canada wants to shift the balance of power in favor of local manufacturers and workers by offering $10,000 incentives for EVs that are made in Canada. This could potentially accelerate the growth of Canadian EV manufacturers, such as Electromechanica, which is planning to produce the Solo EV in Canada. Tesla, on the other hand, does not have any large-scale manufacturing plants in Canada. The company's operations are largely based in the US and China. As a result, Canadian consumers currently enjoy relatively low prices for Tesla vehicles, thanks to the lack of significant tariffs. However, if the NDP's proposal goes through, the costs of Tesla vehicles could skyrocket in Canada, severely limiting the company's market share. In 2021, Tesla's market share in Canada was over 50% of the total EV market, with nearly 19,200 units sold. If the tariffs go into effect, prices for the Model 3 could increase by $20,000 CAD or more, pushing the vehicle into the luxury car category, which could shrink Tesla's consumer base in Canada. Tesla's response options are limited, but there are a few possibilities. The company could build a factory in Canada to produce EVs locally, circumventing the tariffs. Another route would be for Tesla executives to lobby the Canadian government to prevent the tariff from being enacted. However, both options could be time-consuming and costly. A new Tesla Gigafactory would cost anywhere between $1 billion to $5 billion USD to construct, according to industry estimates. Chapter 4: Trade Implications. The Trump Factor. But the plot thickens when we consider Donald Trump's tariffs. Trump has previously threatened to impose 25% tariffs on foreign imports into the US, including steel and automotive parts. In 2018, Trump imposed a 25% tariff on steel and a 10% tariff on aluminum from Canada and other countries. This is still affecting the global automotive supply chain. If Trump were to impose additional tariffs on Chinese-made EV parts, Tesla's production costs would rise, potentially leading to higher car prices and lower sales. For consumers, the trade war could result in higher prices for all vehicles, especially foreign-made ones. If Trump's tariffs go into effect, the cost of American-made cars could rise significantly, making it harder for average consumers to buy new vehicles. For those living in border towns or regions where cross-border trade is common, the higher tariffs could disrupt local economies that rely on cheaper products coming from the US or Canada. This could increase the cost of living and affect everyday goods, including automobile parts, consumer electronics, and steel products. As Canada moves forward with its protectionist policies, the future of North American trade hangs in the balance. A 100% tariff on Tesla may sound like a move to protect Canadian jobs, but in reality, it could backfire by making EVs more expensive and slowing down the adoption of green technologies. Consumers could face a situation where the dream of owning an affordable electric vehicle becomes less attainable, while local job creation may take longer to materialize as the auto industry adjusts to these new tariffs. What do you think about Canada's 100% tariff proposal? Is it the right move for protecting local jobs and supporting green policies? Or is it a dangerous path that could hurt Canadian consumers and the broader EV revolution? We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below.